Today at Manchester Theatres, I am genuinely thrilled to be here with Brian Capron, who is currently playing Hook in Peter Pan at the Stockport Plaza. Now, it's on until the 7th of January, so there is plenty of time for you to still grab some tickets and just sprinkle a little bit of pixie dust into your Christmas and New Year. Now, Brian has had a really exciting career, back to when I can remember playing Mr. Hoppy Hopwood in Grange Hill, going on to some fantastic hit shows such as Taggart, Minder, Casualty, and of course, Manchester's favourite fictional serial killer, Richard Hillman in Coronation Street. But Brian has also done some brilliant stage work as well. We're talking shows like Rocky Horror and Guys and Dolls. So we are thrilled to have you back on our Manchester turf here in Peter Pan. So thank you for joining us today, Brian.
It's a real pleasure.
So we all know the story of Peter Pan, obviously. So what I wanted to ask was, is this like a traditional telling of the story, or is there any kind of little plot twist or pantomime nuggets or anything that have been thrown in there? What can we expect from the story?
Well, it is the basic story. Yeah, the basic story is intact. But of course, it's always tricky with a panto to involve the dame and the comic. Because I've actually did the Broadway musical version of Peter Pan at the Lowry some years ago, which was a wonderful show, which was very traditional. But the thing is, the Plaza tends to be quite traditional, which is quite nice, really. So it's this particular show has a great comic and a great dame in it, and the comic it plays Smee, my kind of trusty bosun sidekick, and the nice thing is he's always taking the mickey out of Hook, who's trying to be deadly serious. So it works very nice. It's a nice little double act, and I really like this particular Hook because I'm involved with the dame and the comic. Often the baddie doesn't get to do a lot of the good stuff, you know. So in this one, I'm in what's a very traditional gag called the ghost gag, which is a gorilla in this case. So there are interspersions of little bits and pieces that you wouldn't find in a straightforward kind of rendering of the tale. But it's all there. The flying's there, and Peter not wanting to grow up, and Wendy. And of course, I also double as Mr. Darling, which I love. This is wonderful, bombastic, Victorian, sexist character, you know? Which is great fun to do, you know. Yeah. So yeah, but the basic story is all there. The fantasy of Peter Pan, the fantastical of Peter Pan, is all there. It's wonderful with the Lost Boys and Tiger Lily and all of the classic characters from the original tale.
Fantastic. And you, like we've said, you're playing Hook. So if it's traditional, is your Hook quite traditional then? Or have you put like any kind of your own little twists and turns on it? Is there any, like, sometimes we see Hook as very serious and nasty, sometimes quite sarcastic, and sometimes, like you say, there's the humor and things like that. So how are you playing Hook?
Well, first and foremost, he has to connect directly with the audience. It's great. That's what's great about pantomime, because you break the fourth wall, and I really take on the audience, you know, and they boo me all through. It's fantastic. We've had lots of schools in earlier this week, you know, and that they've absolutely loved it. This particular show is particularly good for young children. They absolutely love it, and to hear them singing along. There's a couple of modern things in, you know, we do a little TikTok in there, so there's a few little modern twists that they love and they know and can relate to. But as for the character himself, he's out of all the baddies, I love him. You know, I see him as a kind of like one of these French kings with you know, the long wigs, and totally self-regarding, and walking through a hall of mirrors, and he's terribly thin-skinned as well, and very easily upset, you know, and angry all the time. So he's a wonderful character to play. I absolutely love playing Hook, you know, above all of the others, you know.
Yeah.
So it's a thrill, and as I say, I'm involved with the comic and the dame quite a lot in this particular show, which I absolutely love. We all get on so well. It's a particularly nice company, I have to say. All the young people in it there's a big company of dancers. You don't see that an awful lot in a lot of pantomimes these days. They just use local schools, but we have a full complement of fantastic dancers and a choreography. It is just outstanding. So in a sense that supports the whole show, which means that the kids then follow the actual story because they've seen this fantastic singing and dancing all the way through that keeps coming back.
Yeah, like you say, it just kind of ties everything together, and it isn't just relying on the big characters. It's a real company ensemble piece from the sound of it.
Yeah, and also some of the reviews have been very nice in saying, I think because it's a nice company, they've said words like infectious.
Yeah.
And I think it's absolutely true. When a company really kind of melds together like this one, I think it gets across to the audience and makes such a big difference because we're all enjoying it so much, and very occasionally you do a pantomime and some person's not getting on, or there's something problem, with the comic, or I've been in all sorts of different situations, but this has been a particularly, lovely, fun one to do, I have to say, and I really look forward to it every day. Where sometimes you think, "Oh no, not another show."
Yeah, but no, none of that's going. So, how are you managing the Hook costume then? Like you said, you've got the big long wig and the hat.
Big.
It's quite a heavy costume, isn't it? Really,
it's a very heavy costume. Yeah, it is. I mean, the lady who dresses me, she's quite small as well. She has to lift up this great big coat and put it on, and also it's very hot. So it's good for me because I'm losing a lot of weight. It's always happens. I played King Rat last time 2 years ago at the Plaza, and that was an even heavier costume. So, but the nice thing about this costume, it looks fantastic and it makes you feel fantastic. You put on those boots and you put on the wig and the fantastic big hat with all the feathers. And you've got the character, as soon as you put that on, that's it, and out you go. And also we've got a couple of sword fights in it, as well, which is lovely, which I'm pretty bad at, but I do my best. Poor old Peter Pan nearly loses his head or a foot.
And how do you manage the hook? I've always wondered, is it like something that you hold on to and then it's tucked, or?
Yes, yeah, and this is very well considered because there's so much lace in my costume. It's fabulous. So the sleeves are all very lacy. So the actual hook part, I've had a special glove made inside, so because your hand gets very hot. Ooh. So I hold on to it, yes. But I tell you, the funny thing about the hook is the first time I played Captain Hook, I played, quite a few times. I foolishly used my right hand to hold the hook, which you naturally want to do. Because if you're right-handed, because you want to use the hook all the time, But of course, when it comes to the sword fight, you suddenly have to do a sword fight with your left hand, which is terrible, and terribly frightening for Peter Pan. So now I always have it in my left hand, and it leaves your right hand to do a nice sword fight.
Yeah, I hadn't even thought of that, but yeah. I imagine, Wow. And the songs. So you've kind of given a bit of a teaser there. We've got a couple of TikTok-like elements and things like that. You've been in musicals before. Do you sing anything in this one? Are there any big belting songs?
Funny thing is, no, I don't have a song in this for the first time for a long time. And they tend at the Plaza not to give, I think, because they have a lot of television kind of celebrity type people who come on who probably don't want to sing. So normally the baddie there doesn't have a song. I did have a song last time as King Rat, which was Ace of Spades, which was like so difficult but fabulous. It was so against the rest of the panto, and I had about 15 rats dancing around me with me. It was fabulous. But I don't have a song, but there's some lovely singing in this. Peter Pan's got a beautiful, the boy Lucas who's playing Peter Pan's got a beautiful voice, and he sings a particularly lovely ballad during it. But there's lots of lovely singing in it. They're all fabulous. I'm so glad I'm not singing. I always worry when I have a song because I'm not a natural singer. I've done lots of I fell into musicals with Rocky Horror really, and then Guys and Dolls. So if they need a character actor who can put a song across, I can do that. But I wouldn't call myself a singer. So I always find if I've got a song in a show, I'm always quite anxious until that's out the way. The worst bit
out the way.
The worst thing with songs is what they call the takeoff. So you've got dialogue and you see the song coming at you, and you somehow have to get into it nice and smoothly, and you're worrying half. You're saying this dialogue and thinking, oh, I can hear the music starting. Here we go. Am I going to miss the entrance? So I'm quite relieved. Probably the audience would be relieved I haven't got to sing as well.
Oh, I'm sure they wouldn't be. And what about visually? You've mentioned that we've got flying, but Peter Pan, I mean, it's an adventure. So we're going from London to pirate ships to mermaid lagoons and Neverland and goodness knows where else. How do they do that so effectively on stage?
Well, that's all there because they have, I mean, it's a very big stage there, and they've got all these fantastic backdrops all the time, that keep evolving and changing throughout. So you see, and you've got the pirate ship, you've got Neverland, you've got tiger lilies, Indian tribes, really though, the most important thing is the actual company. And I would say the costumes are fantastic in this. And there's one spectacular number. They go to what's called the Coconut Club, and the girls do this number, which is like the Folie Bergère, with these incredible top feathered headdresses. And it's very sexy, I have to say. It's incredible. It really surprised me, and it surprises the audience because, in the story, all the pirates are watching this new club that Mr. Smee and Mrs. Smee have started. Mrs. Smee is the dame. She's Smee's mother in it. Okay. That's how they work in the Dame. And they've opened this Coconut Club, and it just hits you between the eyes, And I always watch it every night because I'm next on. I stop it all and I come on and say, "What's going on? This is ridiculous," Miserable old Hook comes on, but that is a spectacular number and a real surprise. And you hear the audience go, "Whoa!" As they come round, and the girls are just fabulous. They're terrific.
Yeah, I love it when you can surprise an audience like that, because you are particularly with Pan, and people think they know what's coming, but then when there's that big 11 o'clock wow number, it must be
absolutely. And the other thing is generally with a panto, because you have very short rehearsal time, and so we've tightened up the show enormously since the first night, and luckily we had nice reviews for the first night, which was nice. But now the show is very, very tight. And you just have to keep it moving very quickly, and so you get more surprised by things like that.
Yeah, well, I was going to ask about rehearsals, because the idea of panto rehearsals always baffles me, because like you say, you get a much shorter rehearsal time, but then it's one of those shows that I'm guessing it needs the audience, doesn't it? So you rehearse something, but then when you get it up there and you get that audience interaction, do you ever find that where you end is never quite where you started, because a gag might go really well, or something happens, so you think, oh, we'll put that in, or we'll extend it, or does it kind of change and play around? Have you got to kind of think on your feet all the time?
Yes, well, I mean, of course, the audience is very, very important, and you notice a big difference between sometimes matinee and evening audiences, depending on how many children are in.
Yeah.
There's often a big difference. So you alter slightly because you think, the kids won't understand that joke, so I might cut that, or we might not make such a big thing of it, But with this, we only had 8 or 9 days rehearsal to put on a full musical, really. And what I always do is learn everything. I learn everything before I start, and then even then you think you know it and you don't, but and then that's why the first nights are very, very nerve-wracking, because you're suddenly going out there, and my big hate in pantos is rhyming couplets, because if you get one word wrong, you're snookered, So I've made up many a line in the past. Yes, and as soon as the audience are in, yes, you start to alter things, and it's not what I love about panto is sometimes things happen by accident in front of an audience, and if if as long as they're in on it and they see what's happening, like there's a little bit interaction that I have with the comic, and we can't help but not laugh, and so you tend to like want to recreate that moment for the audience, and if as long as they're in on it, it should never be a private joke.
No.
For everyone on stage, there's nothing more off-putting than that. But it's lovely if something goes wrong, or particularly in a panto, and there was a moment the other day when a sword fell on the floor, and this guy was supposed to pick it up straight away, and he just couldn't get hold of it. It just rolled and rolled and rolled around the stage, and it was hilarious. There's all sorts of things like that, and then sometimes you're tempted to try and recreate those moments, and make them as real as possible for the audience. But yes, the audience is absolutely crucial, and we've had fantastic audiences for this. It's a 1,300 seater, and when you've got 13, and of course, as the baddie, when you're fighting against the booze and the noise, but it's so exciting, and you have to use all your experience to try and get around it and get the dialogue out so that they can hear and follow the story.
Yeah, well, I was going to say, because obviously from back in the day when you were Richard Hillman, I'm sure you were used to, the odd like person on the street kind of going at you for being a baddie, but like you've just said, this is. But this is in a more fun gesture way, but it's like everyone coming at you at once, kind of booing you before you've even done anything. You walk onto stage and people boo you.
They start right at the beginning. Yeah, right from the beginning it starts. But I always say, it's not completely true, but if the kids aren't crying, then I'm not doing my job.
I love that.
It's a bit cruel, isn't it?
But so true. So what's Christmas going to look like for you this year, Brian? Do you get time off? Do you get to go home and spend time with the family for Christmas?
Well, that's an interesting question. Now, because I'm a quasi-northerner, as you can tell, I'm not northern at all. How I ever got the part as Richard Hillman, I will never understand. And everyone thinks I'm northern because of Coronation Street. And then I did Where the Heart Is for 3 years with a bad Yorkshire accent. So it's extraordinary. So really, my cachet is up here. And so for the last 4 or 5, 6 years, and I've worked a lot at the Lowry at Christmas as well. Angela Lonsdale, who used to be Curly's wife, the policewoman in Coronation Street, is a great friend of my wife's. And she's sometimes on her own at Christmas. And we tend to come up with my family, with my son, that is. I have 2 daughters who stay in Brighton. But so this year is no exception. This happens every year. And Angela lives in Alderley Edge. And we come up with my son and my wife, Jacqueline, and my son's girlfriend. They're coming up on the day before Christmas Eve, and my wife brings up all the food and stuff because she likes to do the cooking along with Angela. And we always have Christmas Day at Angela's, so they'll come and see the show on Christmas Eve, and I'll go back with them. I'll drive them back to Alderley Edge and spend all day and stay over at Angela's. And that happens every year. That happened last year. I was in Bridlington last year, and I drove back to Alderley Edge, and the year before with King Rat. And so we've had 4 or 5 Christmases with Angela, and that's our Christmas now. And it's up here, and it's quite it's exciting because it's a real occasion. It's absolutely lovely.
Well, that's what it's all about, isn't it? Family, friends, and doesn't really matter where you are. If you've got that together, then it is Christmas, isn't it? Yeah,
because there's no time to go home because we've got an evening show on Christmas Eve, and then we've got a Boxing Day show at like 1 o'clock on Boxing Day, a matinee. So there would have been no time. I live in Brighton, I couldn't go all the way back there. So it's fantastic that they all come up, and we all look forward to it. And as I say, it's become a tradition every year now. As long as I keep doing Panto, I don't know how many more I'll do. I'm getting quite old now, but I'm still hale and hearty and healthy, thank God. I feel very, very fortunate. Here I am 20 years after Coronation Street, still working, and due to Coronation Street, I owe it a lot from that point of view.
Well, we are thrilled that you are here, and long may it continue. Long may you keep coming and giving us these fantastic parts in Panto, or whatever else it is that you may do, because I'd said it at the start, but I genuinely mean it. It's been an absolute, genuine pleasure chatting with you today, Brian. So thank you so much. All the best with the rest of the Panto run. Have a wonderful Christmas. And just as a reminder to everybody, you can catch Brian as Hook in Peter Pan and, of course, Mr. Darling till the 7th of January. So all you need is faith and trust and a little bit of pixie dust. Go along, enjoy, and thank you so, so much.
Thanks a lot, Karen.